Hey, and welcome back to Knit Your Stress Away, the podcast where we talk all things knitting, calm, and simple self-care that actually fits into your real life. If you've ever said, I want to knit, but I just don't have the time, then this episode is for you. Because today we're talking about what's really behind that feeling or that I don't have time, and how you can start creating small and peaceful pockets of time to reconnect with your project, with your yarn, and with yourself. So let's dive into this episode. Welcome to Knit Your Stress Away, the podcast for overwhelmed moms who are done with doom scrolling and ready for something slower. Hi, I am Nadine. I am a mom, a knitting coach for beginners, and proud screen time dropout who believes that peace starts with just one stitch. If you've ever craved a quiet moment to yourself, this show is your cozy permission slip. Let's trade notifications for needles and turn stress into self-care together. So today we're talking about this idea of I just don't have time to work on my knitting project. And it kind of ties a little bit into last week's feeling like we're in the slow lane with our project and we're just not making any progress and it's feeling a bit frustrating. Go back to that one if you haven't listened to it, because I shared some tangible ways of kind of getting through that rut. But today we're talking about this notion of I don't have time. And oftentimes I personally think there's something else behind that because, oftentimes it also needs to be about the space, right? The mental space, the emotional space. And we need to create that space for ourselves, especially as busy moms. But very often it's just really easy. And this is not supposed to sound harsh, but we all do this from time to time. It's easier to say, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. But when we really take a look at how we spend our time, we might find that we actually do have quite a bit of time, but we're just not spending it on the things that we say we want to spend it on. And I think it's such a paradox because it's like, I want to knit, but we still don't. And there needs to be a mindset shift that has to occur. And I'm going to give you some tips today in this episode that there's some simple shifts that will help you create, a pocket of time here and a pocket of time there where you really then can invest into your knitting hobby. And you know that by investing in your knitting hobby, investing time into it, you are also investing into your self-care, into your stress relief, into your well-being, into calming your nervous system. Like all those things are so well worth it. But there are things that get in the way that we then rather do, even if it's unknowing. Okay. But yes, even me as a knitter who talks about this every single week on this podcast and every day on Instagram, even I go sometimes for a couple of days without even grabbing my project. So yes, I have to remind myself of this as well, because there is time in the day, even on the busiest days. But I also do very much understand how we feel at the end of the day and how overstimulated we are and how drained we are at the same time. So what do we do when we are feeling that way, when we're already like, oh my gosh, so much has happened today. I am so done. I'm super tired. I don't even know what to do. You collapse on the couch and we grab our phone and then we scroll, right? We avoid starting anything because it seems like if I start this now, it has to be worth it. Like I have to do this for a while in order to even make progress. We don't see one row or two rows as progress or as something that, is worth us even getting started. But knitting should never feel like another task, right? It's never this like chore, this thing that I have to do. It always should be a way to regulate, to settle, to come home, to kind of come back to home base and make you feel you can take a breath and you can relax. So it should always be that anchor for us. So I have 3 simple shifts here that I want to share on this podcast today. It's going to be a very short episode, but these might be profound enough to really help you feel a little bit different about that. And instead of saying, I just don't have time or I just didn't have time yesterday, to be a little bit more intentional about it and also really understand what that 15 minutes of knitting could do for you instead of 15 minutes of scrolling. And when you really kind of shift your mindset around that, I think it's going to be a lot easier to pick up that project instead of picking up the phone, picking up your needles instead of picking up the phone. So the first one is a visual cue. So very simple, right? Oftentimes the knitting project might be tucked away somewhere and it's out of sight and out of mind. But if you move it to a visible spot, your bedside before you go to bed, your kitchen counter, maybe you put it in the car, because if you're like, you know what, I'm driving kids around all day long, you really truly may not have the time while you're at home to actually work on it. But if you are in the car and you're stopping somewhere, or you have 5 minutes here or there that you need to wait for something or for someone, don't do it at a traffic light. You can grab your knitting project and you can just stitch a few stitches. And for those moments where it needs to be here or there and in between things, I definitely recommend having a project that is a little bit on the more mindless side. In other words, something that you can easily pick up and drop when something else starts and occurs. But you can take it to doctor's appointments. You can take it to the pickup line for your kids' school, or you can take it to your kids' events or after school activities and where you're sitting on the sidelines or whatever, right? Like those are moments where you would usually grab your phone, but I highly recommend having your knitting and grab that instead, because you're going to get so much more out of it, right? And seeing it laying around wherever you walk, it's like, oh, your brain's going to be like, hey, this is something that matters. Like, I can pick this up. I don't need to pick up my phone. I personally often use the trick of literally placing my project above my phone. So I put my phone down on the counter. I put my knitting project right on top of it. So I don't even see my phone, but I will always see my knitting project. Okay, shift number 2, swap 15 minutes of screen time. Kind of ties into the first one a little bit, where you intentionally grab your knitting instead of your screen or your phone, or whatever screen it is. I always think, when I say screen time, I mean your phone, where you scroll the internet or you scroll the social media and the Facebook and the Instagrams and the TikToks and whatnot. I don't necessarily talk about like settling down with your husband on the couch and watching a show. I find it doable to do both. When you knit and you watch a show, I think that's such a great way to relax, but also get a little bit of entertainment in, right? But I'm talking about your actual phone, where for 90% of the time, we're not using it as a tool to write a shopping list or to, text somebody an important message, or actually making a phone call, which I feel like no one is using a phone anymore to actually make phone calls. It's so funny. But where you waste a lot of time, where you go and check for the 15th time if you had somebody like your post, or if someone else posted something new, or whatever it might be, just a mindless scrolling. Try this for one night. If you feel the urge to scroll in the evening, especially if you are still taking your phone to your bedside table, leave it. Don't touch it, and just knit a couple of rows instead. That's it. Just 2 to 3 rows, however long that takes you. And that, again, is completely irrelevant because, of course, it depends on the project you're working on. But that is it. Try to make that swap. Try to do it tonight. 15 minutes of screen time. Put the phone down and instead use your brain for knitting. And I am sure you're going to feel better after that. Shift number 3. Pre-plan your calm moments with your knitting, right? Whether it's after the kids go to bed or in the morning, you get up 15 minutes earlier, grab your coffee, sit down, give yourself permission to knit for you. Not necessarily as a project, but just as a break, right? And I can tell you 100% when you're feeling a moment of, like I'm just frustrated, nothing's working today, things are kind of out of control, stuff's everywhere, I'm just like so over stimulated and I'm just frustrated, I'm done. That's the moment where this comes into play, where you're like, oh, hang on a second. I know exactly how to take myself back down a little bit from this, crazy feeling. And you can work through your emotions as you knit a couple of rows. It is like therapy. It's so very good. And I do this often when I have a moment of complete frustration here in my house, which, it happens. It happens. I have teenagers. They're all home all day long. And I always think, where's my knitting? Where's my knitting? I just give me 5 minutes and I'm going to do a couple of stitches, and it works wonders every single time. So if you can like make it kind of like your battle plan, right? Like for the crazy times, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to walk out the room and I'm going to take my knitting project and I'm going to sit down and do a couple of rows, and I will feel better. It brings me back every single time. So I think pre-planning that instead of being in the moment and then realizing, oh my God, like I'm feeling overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. You already made the plan. So you already know, let me just grab this. It'll help. It'll help take the edge off, right? But the truth is you do not need motivation. You just need to truly understand how this knitting hobby can actually calm your nervous system, how it can help you relieve your stress, and you will reach for it more. And you do also need to understand that the phone and the Instagram and the social media scrolling is not going to do that for you. So the more times you can, intentionally kind of swap that out and do like really put that project on the forefront of your mind, the more you will automatically gravitate towards that. I mentioned this in the last episode. It's like muscle memory. You train your brain to pick up your knitting instead of your phone, and it will get better and it will get a lot easier. So if you're nodding along this entire time and you're like, yep, I want this. Yes, I need this. I actually made something new for you, and I'm so excited to bring it to you. It is called Make Time to Stitch, and it's a simple 3-day reset. It walks you through 3 peaceful, real-life ways to carve out about 15 minutes of knitting every day without the guilt, without the overwhelm, or rearranging your schedule. And you will get a simple 3-day plan. You even get a tracker that you can print out and track your screen-free time on there, or your screen time, just to kind of get aware, of, wow, okay, so this is actually how much time I, quote unquote, waste on my phone. And you get my favorite tips for creating more time without more pressure. So you can actually get it for free at theknittingmamas.com. And you can also tap the link in the show notes where it takes you straight there. And I hope you enjoy. I would love to hear your feedback about it. So come over to my Instagram. It's at @theknittingmamas_, and talk to me about it once you downloaded it. I hope you enjoy. And remember, even 1 row is enough. 1 row, you showed up for it, you did your stitches, you're doing great. And I'm so proud of you for showing up here, listening to the podcast every week so that we can all collectively create more calm in your life through the amazing hobby of knitting. All right, I hope I will hear and see you around here next week. Same time, same place. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on today's episode. I hope you're walking away with a bit more inspiration and a few ideas to make your self-care a priority. If today's chat gave you a little boost, I'd love it if you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This helps other moms discover the podcast and start finding more calm and creativity in their day as well. And don't forget to join us over in the Knitting Mamas community on Facebook by going to theknittingmamas.com/group. Thanks again, and remember, you deserve time for yourself to recharge and feel your best.